Welcome into Extra Time. Thank you very much for your tweets. The boys here in the studio, plus Jules. There's a lot of questions about the same topic. Watford, of course, beat Liverpool. Two of Watford's goals came from throw-ins. Stevie, both goals to Watford come from throw-ins. Should Liverpool hire the Watford throw-in coach?
Well, clearly the throw-in coach doesn't do defensive throw-ins.
Right.
So maybe they need to employ a defensive throw-in against coach. That's the answer.
Brings us to the next point. For Jules, 2 of the 3 goals that Liverpool conceded came from the throw-ins. Does the throw-in coach only work for the attacking contribution?
I believe so, yeah.
Ah.
So maybe Stevie is right. Maybe they should start looking for a defensive throwing coach that will prevent conceding goals from opposition throw-ins.
I saw something on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, and it was somebody trying to point out something that Leipzig did at Tottenham and how this is how a throw-in coach helps. And it was basically Leipzig trying to box Tottenham in.
Right.
And whilst I don't rule out a throw-in coach being any use to anybody if it's good enough for Klopp, I'm fine by it. It was just a bog standard piece. We always used to do that.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that everyone works on. You work on boxing people in, or letting them out at once, whatever it is you do, you just overload. And I thought, here's some people just taking something and going, and it really just stood out as people just don't have a clue actually how it works.
Craig, if you're Simeone and Atletico Madrid, what do you take away from this Liverpool match ahead of the second leg?
That they're vulnerable. They become vulnerable at the back. That they can be. That you can expose the space in behind the full-backs in particular because they are so good going forward. And Van Dijk and Gomez, when he's been available, have snuffed any problems out. But I mean, if Van Dijk and say Gomez, Stevie, are not quite in the game, and Alexander-Arnold and Robertson are piling forward, I mean, you could hit there on the counter-attack.
You can definitely take out the performance. If you want to concentrate on the Liverpool side of it, the performance of Liverpool in the first leg wasn't just a one-off. They're actually not in good form.
Right.
And so you should take heart from that it's not a one-off and they're just not playing particularly well right now.
You look at the chance young Bowen had for West Ham right at the death when they played a little diagonal ball through in behind Van Dijk, I think it was, and but for Alisson making a good save with the head, I think it came off.
Yep.
We're seeing chances created against them recently that we really weren't earlier in the season.
And it's not even confined to one thing, you know. Set pieces, they've looked vulnerable. Now, if set pieces is the only time you look vulnerable, then that's a lot easier to fix than it is. The team's cutting you up, but they're getting cut up as well.
Why the managers of relatively smaller teams substitute a player on a hat-trick most of the time, considering he's not going to get that opportunity too often again? Steve?
No idea. No idea. I mean, if somebody's on a hat-trick...
You're talking about Sarr.
Yeah, that was the one that stood out today, yeah.
I don't understand that. I really don't understand it.
Well, maybe
unless it's as straightforward as you're taking a forward off just to block everyone up.
Well, the other side of the coin is he's been out.
Yeah.
He's been out, I think, for around a month. And so, what's more important? Hat-trick or him being fit for the rest of the season? I think that's pretty obvious. And I think that's why they would do it. No?
I mean, yeah, maybe, aye, but I just don't understand.
No, I think when people are talking about taking players off, who was it? I can't remember, we were talking about it before. But anyway, Nigel Pearson couldn't give us stuff
that he's on a hat-trick.
That he's on a hat-trick, right. But he could give us stuff if he's out for a month again.
Okay.
So that I think it's precautionary.
I'm assuming he's got a good reason for it.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, I don't understand sometimes. Listen, there's one thing I can assure you: when you go on the field to play as a substitute, it takes you at least 5 minutes to get in tune with the game. Because basically, whether you've been running up and down or not, you're not in tune with the game. It takes you 5 minutes to get your lungs going and get in tune with everything else. So, in my opinion, unless the game is done and dusted, you leave things the way they are.
Final question. The boys talked about this yesterday, Jules, but what is the French equivalent to Xhaka's Carnival?
We've got a few carnivals. We've got one in Nantes, we've got one in Lille, few celebrations like that in the south of France as well, southeast. So it's maybe not as iconic as the one in Trinidad and Tobago, or the one in Rio, for example, and that kind of stuff, or even in Venice. But we still have a few celebrations like that around the country.
Have you been to the one in Rio?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't. But there is a Cornish equivalent. May the 8th. Every year, we all dance around the towns of Helston to the Flora dance that Terry Wogan used to sing. Remember that? And we're all dressed in white to welcome in the spring. Wow. There you are. Beautiful. Learn something new every day.
And why were you doing it?
Because all the school kids did it. So when I was a school kid, we used to do it.
Do you morph into your very Cornish accent?
You do go very Cornish, and it's a little bit xenophobic, and you can only dance. The people at the front of the dance, the people born in Cornwall, and the ones at the back have not been born in Cornwall.
Oh,
that sounds like a good one to miss. If you don't mind me saying so.
Very uninclusive.
No, indeed. That is it. ESPN FC. It's a massive day tomorrow. Classico,
what,
Carabao.
Cornwall?
No, Cornwall, I don't know. Classico, Carabao Cup final, all sorts going on. We'll bring you all the latest. Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.